So, hello everybody. As the organizer already introduced, my name is Nikija and I come from Colonel's Oskars Kalpa Military High School. And today I will present my research about recreation in the 80s in Soviet Latvia. So first, what I will talk about in this presentation is project background, like what, when, and why did I do. Also aim and objectives, or in other words, my main goal in this research. Also steps to achieve results, the ones that I think are the most important. Also, I will share some information, places where I found literature overview, and my theoretical findings. You will see some pictures from the process of the research and also exhibition, and my main conclusions, and finally I will suggest you some literature that is connected with my topic. So the background: I started this research as a school project during history lessons. Me and my schoolmates were divided in groups. We created an exhibition with 9 museum stands, one of which was mine. We all created works on a topic connected with history of our country, such as food, school life, birthdays, or, like me, recreation. This project took place in March this year, and I worked in a group of 3 people and took the role of organizing and leading. The project included work with theory, like information analysis and compilation, and also practical skills like designing, creating, and putting together the information with the actual objects of the museum stand. Aim and objectives, or the main goal, was to research and visualize the recreation in Soviet Latvia in the 80s by creating a museum stand. Later you will also be able to see a photo of the result of the museum stand. So the main steps, the choice of topic was the first step. We as a group had the opportunity to choose both the time period and the subtopic, or like the main aspect to be discussed, and we chose to talk about recreation because this topic is not discussed in ordinary history lessons often. The second one is planning. As we know, a plan usually fails to be done precisely, but a goal without a plan is just a wish. So without it, the work is chaotic. Therefore, as a group, we tried to follow the deadlines set by the teacher and also set our own more detailed deadlines for division for specific works. And of course, it is also important to cooperate, help each other, share ideas, discuss to improve the overall quality and the result of the work. And dividing responsibilities is no less important. Sorry, the school bell. And dividing responsibilities isn't less important. And especially in group project, it is important to be aware of the individual skills and abilities of each participant of the group. Like a person with excellent design skills is unlikely to be the main gatherer of information, and the work will be easier for everyone if everybody knows their role in this project. But that does not mean that we worked as separate organisms. We still cannot forget about cooperation. And final, work, that I think is most important to making any project. And I also faced breaking points when I was not motivated and I was tired and I wanted to postpone everything until the last moment. But that's why it's important to work as a team, motivate each other, and just find time for work and do not search for excuses. So literature overview. The first 2 you can see you can find them digitally on internet. The sources of the National Library allowed me to look at the press publications from Latvia in the 80s. There I came across propaganda and also real stories, interviews, descriptions of events, which is really relevant to my topic because I found information about different concerts and festive events and other events of that time. And the National Archives offered me a large collection of images, videos, and also audio material, which was useful when I was making the museum stand for designing and decorating it. And then 3 books that I used for the clear vision of the topic. And the book Latvijas Stāsts introduces readers to the history of Latvia over 100 years, and including what years of Soviet occupation meant to Latvian society. This book was really useful, and the book Pagājušo gadu Latvija is another book, and the creators of the book have tried to show at least a small part of objects from that time while using photographs, and also sharing stories about everyday life, holiday moments, and urban environment in general. The book also contains anecdotes from that time and stories from Soviet Latvia. And this book came in handy when I was trying to find artifacts for the museum stand. The stories about the objects really helped. And the last book is something similar to interviews that I made, and it contains anonymous stories of real people about their experiences in Latvia in a long period of time, arranged chronologically. And this allowed me to look at my topic more personally and in more detail. So in conclusion about the literature overview, I could say that a lot of different information could be indeed found on this subject. However, I gained more clarity and more accurate view on my topic while doing the interviews, which I will tell you about later. So here are 3 theoretical findings. First, recreation in Soviet Latvia was realized as a state program to maintain integrity and build a Soviet citizen. Second, the most people evaluate this period of time negatively. Their attitude towards recreation at that time depends on their age, place of residence, and social status. Yes, this also, that people evaluate this period negatively also showed when we were doing interviews and in different literature overview too. And that the sovereignty of Latvia and SSR was transferred to the USSR institutions, retaining limited self-government rights. And the situation in the Republic was controlled by the State Security Committee of the Latvian SSR, whose task was to combat all manifestations of disobedience and resistance. So yeah, these findings will be talked about more detailed in the next slide. Yeah, and here you can see the visual insight, and I will tell you some facts. That first of all, physical activity was really important at that time, as Soviet ideology was strongly about an active lifestyle. People attended concerts and other public events, but it depended also on their age and place of residence. Many people remember this time with hard work and family responsibilities, as there was no often time for rest and fun. And as for the holidays, big parties were popular, and holidays were also actively celebrated in workplaces. But people could celebrate only official holidays, because there were some that were forbidden, but people still celebrated them in secret. Traveling was not really possible, and we cannot fail to mention that people could not express themselves freely. They could not enjoy our traditions. You could be punished for a lot, and people were really scared of it. The relationship between Latvian culture and Soviet politics was really complicated. Here you can see some photos from the process, the theoretical work, and also practical making the stand. So here is the result. My museum stand had the overview of the era, press headlines, myths of the subject, movies and books, Also statistics, connected artifacts like porcelain set, medals from sports competitions, old pack of cigarettes, and record player, and photo slideshow, and also video interviews. Since we were 3 people in a group, we each interviewed one person. Later, we uploaded these videos and and put the QR codes on our stand. I interviewed my grandma, and it was a really nice experience. Here are some photos, more photos from the exhibition. You can see my other classmates. And the main conclusions that, in general, this time is assessed negatively. Our country was occupied and culture was suppressed. People longed for freedom and their own traditions. Also, that people worked a lot, but when they had time to rest, they went to concerts, listened to music, mainly radio. Traveling was mostly not possible, and many holidays were forbidden, but they were also celebrated in secret to stay in their national identity, just to try to save it. Conclusions about the process more was that creating a stand is really time consuming, and you have to pay attention to the small details and cooperate with your teammates. And I learned a lot of things during this project, like how to work with digital tools, how to create interviews, QR codes, and how to choose the appropriate sources for information. And the conclusion closest to my heart, I think, is that I realized the importance of talking to our loved ones, asking important questions about the past, and appreciating their presence while they are still here. I'm talking about the interview with my grandma. I really enjoyed it. It was interesting to see how not enough we are talking with our grandmas, our grandpas, and just seeing and getting the information that we couldn't possibly get any other way. And finally, some suggestions for you that reading related to the topic. I especially recommend reading the first and the last book in this list. The first book will provide a more concrete insight into the political and historical events, while the last book will be more about the cultural history, about the culture and that kind of things. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Nikija and Tēra, for a wonderful presentation, and actually thank you for bringing a very, in my opinion, interesting historical topic, so thank you. What I would like to highlight personally, what I personally enjoyed, was that you described your working process in details, showing a final result, showing each step, describing, reflecting on that, etc. So great job. And once again, we are starting our small discussion, 5 minutes. Dr. Hassan, you're welcome to begin.
Thank you. Actually, I thoroughly enjoyed listening to your presentation, because this topic is not really now close to me. So that's why, I actually, this triggered new ideas, new perspectives to me as well. Actually, in academic conferences, it's not easy to convey your message to the audience. You need to be very clear, and you need to consider, all types of audience. For example, some people are experts on this topic, some people are not. But you did it very well. You explained everything clearly, and I understood everything. It was crystal clear for me. So thank you for this presentation. And actually, also as a researcher, for example, we sometimes, in research, we say, okay, what are the implications of this research, and how we can apply this, findings, and use this in teaching or learning. And you did it in a kind of way like museum stand, and this is actually also very good. I was also thinking maybe in future presentations I might also incorporate such kind of things. So this is very important. And also I would like to ask, what would you like to do next? What is your future now research
Well, Actually, this was my first, I would say, big project that I even made. And this period, like my country's history is the most interesting to me, I think, but a lot of my classmates together with me, like at the same time, we did the different projects, and I saw also insights of other, like I said, about food, about birthdays, about propaganda. So I don't think I will make something about that, but my next project probably would be something more international, maybe similar to Rebecca's. I would like to compare some countries, or maybe something connected with nature would be interesting to me.
Yes, thank you. And just one little concern, but this is, of course, you are now starter, like in research. For example, in research, we generally don't, highlight the participants. We don't really reveal their because I know that you interviewed with your grandma, but for ethical considerations, maybe you would say it's somebody's grandma, something like. Because that way, I mean, also this makes it. I mean, I don't know how Edgar's, because this is his expertise. Could we include such kind of things? But I think we just need to be also like anonymize the participants a little bit to just save the privacy of the people. But apart from that, I think the whole presentation was very clear and very stimulating. Yes.
Just to add here about mentioning the grandmother and grandfather, this was the part of the student's job to do the interviews with the close ones, with the relatives, etc.
Okay.
Yeah, so therefore this particular group was mentioned. Nikija, please tell me what's the main finding for you in terms of what's the main difference between having the rest or recreation in 80s and nowadays? How would you assess? What's the main difference?
I think the freedom. Yes, this project made me really appreciate the freedom we have nowadays. Of course, people try to find ways how to rest and have fun at all times, then and now. But the freedom in traditions also, and the finding about holidays was really surprising to me. For example, Christmas, you cannot celebrate Christmas at that time. It was illegal. You had to, it didn't go together with the Soviet traditions. They were celebrating New Year's. And for me, Christmas is like the most important holiday. So if I couldn't do it now, I would feel really suppressed. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikija, once again. We have one more question for Miroslava. We're actually out of time, but maybe you could ask it as a very short sentence and receive a very short answer. Yeah.
Thank you very much, because as you know, I am from the Czech Republic, and we lived not in the same but in a similar situation. So do you plan to collect some stories more concentrated on one topic? You did you was focused on holidays, but maybe it would be very interesting to compare grandmothers, grandparents feeling and experiences, and parents experiences. So do you plan to do some big research to collect stories of these two generations and to discover, for example, what these generations are maybe not, what is problematic for these two older generation to understand nowadays when they have freedom, because they lived in some conditions. Thank you very much.
Yes, I think in my next project, maybe something similar with history, it would be really important, because the stories, the interviews really give like more detail and personal insight. And if I'm reading a history book, the information doesn't stay with me. But if I'm talking with people who actually are saying those stories that were not so good, and the feeling for our country and the history, yeah, I think it's important. I would like to make such research.